Most people don't know this story. That is itself the story. In the Mahabharata, the epic that gave you Karna, Arjuna, Bhishma, Drona, Krishna, there is a figure who appears in one section of one book, is treated with devastating clarity for a few chapters, and is then almost entirely absent for the rest of the 5,000-year-old text. Ekalavya, the greatest archer in the Mahabharata, the one who was better than Arjuna. You may know the story like this. Ekalavya was a young man from the Nishada tribe, a forest-dwelling people outside the Brahmin Kshatriya order, who wanted to learn archery from Drona, the greatest teacher of his age. Drona refused. He was not of the right birth. Ekalavya went to the forest, built a clay statue of Drona, and taught himself, treating the statue as his guru. He became extraordinary. When Drona discovered this, he demanded his right thumb as Guru Dakshina, the gift a student owes his teacher. Ekalavya cut it off and gave it. The tradition presents this as a story of extraordinary devotion, of a student's love for his teacher, so complete he would give anything asked. Now let me tell you what the Adi Parva actually shows, and what the rest of the Mahabharata does with Ekalavya after the thumb is taken. This is not a story of devotion. This is a story of the most precise act of institutional erasure in Indian mythology. The Adi Parva describes Ekalavya's archery with specific admiration. The text does not hedge. He was extraordinary. He came from the Nishada people, a tribal community that lived outside the Varna system that organized classical Indian society. Not Brahmin, not Kshatriya, not Vaishya, not Shudra. Outside the system entirely. He went to Drona and asked to be taught. Drona refused. The refusal is not given elaborate justification in the text. It is presented simply. Drona did not want to teach a Nishada. Ekalavya did not argue. He went to the forest. He built a clay image of Drona, his mental guru, his imagined teacher, and he practiced. What he achieved through self-teaching was this. He became the finest archer the Mahabharata describes. The text reveals this through a specific incident. A dog was barking. Without killing it, without injuring it, Ekalavya shot 7 arrows simultaneously into the dog's open mouth, stopping its bark without drawing blood. The arrows were placed with such precision that the dog was silenced without harm. The Pandavas saw it. They were astonished. Even Arjuna, whom Drona had promised would be the greatest archer alive, was astonished. They asked who had done it. Ekalavya showed them. He identified himself as a student of Drona. When the Pandavas reported what they had seen to Drona, Arjuna came to him privately. He reminded Drona of his promise that Arjuna would be the greatest archer in the world. He was clearly troubled by what he had witnessed. Drona went to find Ekalavya in the forest. The meeting between Drona and Ekalavya in the Adi Parva is one of the most uncomfortable scenes in the entire Mahabharata. Ekalavya saw Drona coming. He prostrated himself before his mental guru, the man whose image he had worshipped, the teacher who had refused to teach him. His devotion was genuine and total. Drona told him, "If I am your guru, You owe me Guru Dakshina, the student's gift to his teacher. Ekalavya said he would give anything. Drona asked for his right thumb. Without hesitation, Ekalavya cut off his right thumb and offered it to Drona. The text says that after the thumb was cut, Ekalavya continued to practice archery. He remained highly skilled, but he was no longer what he had been. With the right thumb, a bowman draws and releases with a specific tension and control. Without it, something fundamental is altered. Drona had accepted the tribute from a student he had refused to teach, and had used that tribute to eliminate the only archer who threatened his chosen student's supremacy. The tradition reads Drona's demand as the action of a teacher asserting his rights. Guru Dakshina is a sacred institution. A teacher has the right to ask for anything. Ekalavya owed Drona because he had used Drona's image as his guru. But look at the logic carefully. Drona had refused to teach Ekalavya. The refusal was not partial. He had not said, "Come back later, study something else first, prove yourself in another way." He had said no, on grounds of birth. Ekalavya had then achieved what he achieved entirely through his own effort. His clay image of Drona was a psychological tool, a focus for practice. Drona contributed nothing to his development. Drona gave him no instruction, no correction, no knowledge, no time, and then claimed the right of the teacher. The scholar Alf Hiltebadel, in his work on the Mahabharata structure, noted that the Ekalavya episode functions in the text as an exposure of the contradictions within the very system of dharma that the epic is supposed to uphold. The same system that claims to honor the student-teacher relationship is shown using it to destroy someone who had been excluded from that relationship on grounds of birth. Drona did not teach Ekalavya. Drona used the institution of teaching to take something from him. Here is what makes the Ekalavya story most devastating. After the thumb is taken, Ekalavya essentially disappears from the Mahabharata. The epic that spent 18 books on the war at Kurukshetra, that tracked the fates of hundreds of characters across decades, gives Ekalavya one more mention. In the Digvijaya Parva, there is a brief reference that Ekalavya was killed by Krishna during a raid. No detail, no context, no mourning. A figure who was, at his peak, the finest archer described in the epic, is mentioned as dying in a raid, the way a minor character is mentioned dying in a crowd scene. His erasure from the narrative mirrors his erasure from the system. He was too good for the story to accommodate, so the story removed him. First through the thumb, then through silence. The Ekalavya episode is placed in the Mahabharata immediately before the section establishing Arjuna as the greatest archer. The structural connection is not subtle. Arjuna's supremacy as an archer, the supremacy that becomes one of the foundations of the entire war narrative, is established in a world from which Ekalavya has been removed. This does not diminish Arjuna's genuine skill. He was extraordinary. His training, his dedication, his divine gifts, all real. But his supremacy was created in part by eliminating the competition. The text records Arjuna's distress at what he saw Ekalavya do. He was troubled enough to go to Drona. He was troubled enough that Drona felt he needed to act. Arjuna did not ask Drona to take Ekalavya's thumb, but he was the reason Drona did. The promise that Drona had made, that Arjuna would be the greatest archer, required a world in which Ekalavya was not a threat. Drona made that world. The story of Ekalavya has been present in the Mahabharata for 5,000 years. It is not hidden. It is right there in the Adi Parva, told with clarity and without apparent shame. What makes it devastating is exactly that. The lack of apparent shame. The text presents Drona's demand and Ekalavya's compliance as if they are straightforward, as if the institutional logic of Guru Dakshina covers what was done, as if the sacred institution of the student-teacher relationship adequately explains a teacher using that institution against someone he had refused to teach. There is a reason this resonates so deeply right now. We live in a world full of institutional logics that work perfectly for the people inside the institution and serve to exclude and diminish the people outside it, that use the rules of membership against people who were never allowed to be members, that take credit for achievements produced outside the system and use those achievements as leverage against the person who produced them. Ekalavya taught himself. He was better than the student the teacher chose to teach. And the teacher arrived and said, "You owe me." And he gave. He built a clay statue of the man who rejected him and became better than the man he taught. So the teacher came for what he had never given and took it. Every wall holds a story. Some walls were built by the institution that refused to let you in, and then charged you for the door.